welcome to another session of Curriculum Studies in Chemistry, ESC 216. I am your course facilitator, Nihad Goni. This is session 5 of Unit 4. This session will take you through the various instruments by which data on curriculum evaluation are collected. By the end of this session, you should be able to 1. Explain the various instruments for collecting data in curriculum evaluation, and 2. Explain the advantages of the instruments for collecting data in curriculum evaluation, and 3. Explain the benefits of triangulating data from more than one instrument of data collection in curriculum evaluation. Evaluation normally involves gathering, analyzing and interpreting large volumes of information. The information that you need to carry out a good evaluation often differs from one situation to another. Therefore, evaluators normally make choices of data collection instruments that are suitable and also appropriate for the given circumstances they may be in. There are a couple of instruments for collecting education or curriculum evaluation data, which include the use of tests, interviews, questionnaires, and also the observation method. Let's take tests. A test is a systematic procedure for measuring the learning outcomes of a representative sample. It is an instrument that measures knowledge, skill, feeling, intelligence, or aptitude of an individual or a group. For using tests as evaluation, they are normally either served as a pre-test or a post-test. A post-test is often used for the purposes of determining the degree to which objectives have been achieved. That is, a post-test means that after an intervention, the test is administered. And if that is the case, you use it to find to what extent have your objectives been achieved. In terms of the pre-test, it gives you a kind of guidance for future activities. It also helps you to compare basics. And so, before the intervention, if you administer a test, it will guide you to know the weaknesses or the situation of the student or of the research even before the administration of the intervention. For a test to prove its usefulness as a tool, it must meet the requirements of validity, reliability, and objectivity. What are these terms? Let's take them. When we talk about validity of a test, it refers to the extent to which it measures what it is supposed to measure. Is the test actually measuring the skills, the knowledge that we intended for it to measure? That is its validity. Secondly, the reliability. To what degree is the test consistent to what it is intended to measure? And then for objectivity, it also means that an individual score is the same or essentially the same regardless of who is scoring it. And so there is no subjective view on that. Everybody who takes that score will score the same mark or grade. That is its objectivity. And so the text should prove all these to have the high validity, should be reliable and also very objective for it to be a useful evaluation tool. Tests are used to evaluate various aspects of the curriculum and the instructional process. For example, they help to determine the extent to which the instructional objectives were realistic. For example, in class, you conduct tests to test whether your students have actually learned your content or your instructional objectives has been achieved. They can also help you to know whether your methods and the materials you use were appropriate and how well your learning experiences were sequenced. It is generally a good idea to check whether a suitable standardized test already exists before you construct your own instrument for evaluation purposes. However, there may be occasions where it may be more appropriate for you to construct your own test instrument to suit the purpose you want to use it for. Yes, indeed, the decision whether one has to use a standardized test or you have to construct your own test for evaluation study has to be very critically thought through, for the reason that a very well planned and executed evaluation may not yield the correct conclusions if the instrument is poorly constructed or if the instrument does not address the relevant questions. Whether you choose to use a standardized test or a self-constructed one, it is reasonable to collect enough relevant data to help you make valid decisions. Also note that too many items on a test may only serve to waste the time of your respondents. An advantage of the test over the observation method is that it makes for a faster way of gathering data on specific behaviors. An observer who wishes to gather information on a particular behavior may have to observe for a very long time before the behavior that is supposed to be assessed may occur. But for a test, it's quite a fast way. Another advantage of the test as an evaluation tool is its objectivity characteristics. In tests, the performance of individuals and groups can be compared in a way that would yield the same result, irrespective of who is conducting the test. And so test has a very objective view as compared to observation and other types of instruments. Our next instrument is the interview. The interview is usually a conversation or oral exchange of ideas, feelings, beliefs, intentions, and facts between the evaluator or his representative and the students, the teachers, or the others that may be engaged in the implementation process. The interviewer may be of direct face-to-face communication, or it could be through a telephone. It could also be through online computer interactive interview or by some other mechanical device. In some situations, some respondents may be required to complete a written questionnaire before the interviewer even prompts for further details. Interview questions may either be structured or unstructured. That is, it could either be closed-ended or open-ended. We can use interviews in both qualitative and quantitative studies. Although, when we are using it in qualitative studies, we use the more unstructured interviews. Whilst when used for quantitative studies, we tend to use more of the structured interviews. Why use interviews? First, interview is a very useful evaluative tool due to its flexibility. That questions can be repeated or their meanings can be explained in situations where respondents show that they have not really understood them. Because it's an oral communication, you might sense all these and then be able to help get the right information from your respondent. That is how it is flexible. Also, interviews show greater response rates. This is because the personal contact between the evaluator and the respondent gives him the opportunity to motivate them to provide the desired information. Again, gaps do not occur in the information provided in answer to the interview questions because difficult or ambiguous items can be clarified. The evaluator is right in front of you and he can clarify any ambiguity in the interview questions. And so there will not be gaps in the information that will be collected during an interview session. Questionnaires. Questionnaires are instruments that present information to a respondent in writing or through the use of pictures, and then it requires a written response. It could be a check as a response, a cycle, a word, a sentence, or several sentences. A questionnaire may be administered by a variety of means. You might use the mail or online computer, or even can even deliver it by hand. The main characteristic of questionnaire as a data gathering instrument is that respondents provide answers to questions with limited interference on the part of the research personnel. That means, with the use of the questionnaire, the evaluator can depend on the honesty of his respondent because there is no much interference. The evaluator is not there in person to influence anything. The respondent is not under any pressure or influence from whoever is asking him this question. He does it on his own merit. It also guarantees much confidentiality than it is possible with other instruments. Thereby, it yields a more candid and honest response. Unlike with the interview, where respondents may be reluctant to express some unpopular opinions they might have, or they might be afraid to give information because of the person in front of them. For the questionnaires, there is a great level of confidentiality in there. As I said earlier, the presence of the interviewer may lead to biased responses in an interview, but in the questionnaire, that is all avoided. Also, questionnaire allows the respondents time to think before responding, and they also impose some uniformity on the information that is obtained by asking all the respondents the same question. The questionnaires are structured and then given out to the respondent. It's the same questionnaire that is given out to everybody, and so there is uniformity in the information that is being obtained. And that also gives time for the respondents to think through the items on the questionnaire and give their candid views on them without much pressure. Observation is another instrument for collecting data for curriculum evaluation. Observation literally means a method of data collection that employs the sense of vision as its main source. It mainly requires that one or more observers devote all their attention to the behavior of an individual or group within a natural setting and for a certain period of time. To obtain information about the progress or outcomes of an educational program, curriculum evaluators frequently resort to direct observation of selected aspects of implementation as they occur. Observation methods for collecting evaluation information could either be quantitative or qualitative, or structured or unstructured, depending upon which approach is most suitable to the situation under study. For the structured and quantitative evaluation observations, they might require the use of observation schedules or checklists. Under such situations, the observer is given detailed guidelines about who to observe, when, and how long to observe, and the methods of recording the information. But for the unstructured and the qualitative evaluation, on the other hand, the observation is done qualitatively or in the unstructured way. That is, there is less dependence on a formatted questionnaire, checklist, and observation guide or tally. Here, the observer is sent to the scene of observation, usually this is the classroom, with less restrictive instructions, that is, without any detailed guidelines, and simply asked to write a responsive naturalistic account of the events they witnessed, which occurred within the prescribed time. And that is the unstructured or the qualitative aspect of observation. Benson distinguished between three types of qualitative observation rules. For an evaluator who is going to use observation qualitatively, that means unstructured, he has three main rules to play. He can be the complete participant, or the participant as an observer, and the observer as the participant. The observer's role takes a different turn under any of these three arrangements. The most appropriate arrangement, however, depends upon the specifications of the situation that are being observed. There are 5 important steps for conducting evaluation observation, and they are as follows. First, the particular object or behavior to be observed must be defined and selected. Secondly, the behavior falling within the chosen category must also be clearly specified. Thirdly, the people who will carry out the observation must be well trained for the observation activity. Fourth, a system for measuring the variables must also be developed. And 5, detailed procedures for recording the behavior must also be developed. When observations clearly describe what actually took place, it can provide credible information for researchers. This is one of its advantages, the provision of credible information. Observation also appears to be the only viable alternative when the respondents are unable, like children who are unwilling to, who cannot give the information you need, or unwilling people to the research, or those who don't want to offer the information. That is the only way you can get your information from them, using observation or observing their patterns and behaviors. Also, one advantage is that observation offers first-hand information without relying on reports of others. This is something you are experiencing, you are seeing for yourself, and so that's first-hand information. And that is one advantage of using the observation instrument. You know that each instrument has its own shortcomings, and so to avoid this, certain evaluators decided to triangulate instruments. What we mean by triangulation is that you combine 2 or more instruments of data collection to reduce their individual deficiencies and defects, and also to take advantage of their cumulative benefits. I hope you remember some of the instruments for data collection. In this session, we looked at tests, we looked at interviews, questionnaires, and an observation. And so triangulation has to do with using more than one data collection instrument for the study or research. So, triangulation involves the deliberate use of more than one instrument in collecting evaluation data. The use of triangulation enables the evaluator to make some checks on information provided by means of a particular instrument. So, one instrument will be using to be checked. One instrument will check the defects of the other instrument. And so, those deficiencies will be accounted for by others. Why this kind of process, or why this method of data collection? This is because it provides a broader perspective that cannot be gained from the use of a single instrument. Triangulation, therefore, it helps to achieve a very high degree of validity and reliability of evaluation findings, because it deals effectively with the deficiencies of single evaluation instruments. Confessions to try and hands-on. 1. Write down 4 instruments for collecting data on curriculum evaluation. 2. Give 2 advantages each of the instruments for collecting data on curriculum evaluation. 3. Write down the 5 important steps for conducting curriculum evaluation observation. And 4. Explain the benefits of triangulating data from more than one instrument of data collection in curriculum evaluation. We have come to the end of this session. In this session, we looked at the various instruments for collecting data. We looked at the tests, questionnaires, interviews, and observation. We even looked at their advantages and also some of their weaknesses. Apart from that, we came to look at triangulation, a method of using more than one instrument for data collection, and the fact that it is helpful because it gives a proper, broader perspective of the study. Thank you, and I will see you in our next session. I have been your course facilitator, Niha Adgoni. Bye.